Donte, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. It's such an incredible breaking news story, right?
It totally is. Now, they announced this hearing in the Southern District, the federal court, tomorrow at 11 a.m. in advance. There was a big New York Times article about the whole thing, that he's going to be accepting a plea deal in the federal case against him. And this is just coming a couple of days after he was in court at Manhattan Criminal Court on Tuesday for the pretrial hearing in the state murder case. What do you make of all of this?
It's so interesting because my number one question is, what is he getting out of this deal? That's what everybody is going to be anxious to see, because we have to recall the death penalty as of right now is off the table. The judge removed those charges that would have connected the death penalty to this case. So if the death penalty is already off the table, what is he looking to get out of this where he would make a plea? Is it some point in the future, maybe 20, 30 years from now, that he's eligible for parole or to come home to see the light of day again? Is he taking this deal in exchange for not getting life behind bars without the possibility of parole? Now, we also know that the New York State case was supposed to start next month. That state case was a heavy murder charge where they were going to go after life without the possibility of parole. So did he jump in front of that case with these federal charges in this plea, hoping that at some point he can come home? There is double jeopardy that everybody is going to be talking about. You can't be charged twice, and you can be charged, but you can't be convicted twice of the same crime in two different jurisdictions. So if he takes a plea deal here, technically, New York case has to go away because they
So just
can't
like that, like
convict him again.
abracadabra, the New York case just goes.
Kind of, except for there's always in the law, right? There's always a nuance or some kind of
Right.
exception. If New York can point to something that's not covered in the federal case, then they can say, well, we can still try him or charge him with this specific charge. But the federal case includes stalking that led to murder. So I think that murder charge is out. If there's something else, maybe a weapons charge or something that they can point to that's specific to the state of New York, they can say we can still prosecute him for that. But that remaining charge you would expect would be less severe than what he's pleading to in the federal case. So New York kind of has their hands tied right now. It looks like the federal case is going to take the lead in punishment for Luigi Mangione. It's just a matter of, does that plea mean that at some point in his life, because he's a young man, that he'll be able to come home?
And Donte, I was also thinking about the incarceration afterwards. You're talking about the state prison system. You're talking about you go to Rikers Island automatically for a while. Sometimes that can be a year before they get sent upstate, as you know, or even longer. There have been people, defendants who have been there found guilty, and they're there for 2 years before they get sent somewhere. Those prisons, and then there's the federal system. We look at where Diddy is now. He's out of MDC. He's at Fort Dix. He's in a low security type of facility. He's getting time off for doing the drug counseling programs, those types of things. Would there be more options for Luigi Mangione, even if the actual time served was equivalent between the two cases?
Absolutely, Lisa. And this is how we know you're an expert at this. You know the system. The federal prison system is a much better place to be than the state prison system because they have better resources. So
Right.
you're talking about more programs available to you where you can expand, kind of join some different courses and classes, learn some things, and be able to do some things with your time that helps it pass. We're also talking about, just the food service that's there, basic things like that, where his lawyer may have said to him, listen, based on the evidence, they got you, right? You're going to have to go to jail somewhere. If these cases go to trial, you're better off serving that time in the federal prison system than in the state prison system. And because there's more options and things like that available to you, there's a possibility of step downs as he serves his time. If he goes to more minimum security prisons over time, that's an option in the federal system. So you're absolutely right. That could be a consideration. But if I'm his lawyer, I would have a hard time convincing him to take a guilty plea if attached to it is not some kind of possibility that he sees the light of day, even if it's after a long time, 30 years, he's able to go in front of a parole board or something like that, at least with the hope of getting out. Otherwise, with the death penalty off the table, I just don't know why he would accept this plea.
And then Donte, if you're the Manhattan District Attorney, what are you thinking at this point? With because it's almost like Agnifilo and his wife Karen Friedman, who's the lead attorney for Luigi Mangione in the state case. It's like an end run around the state case in a way, or is that not accurate?
If I'm the Manhattan District Attorney, I'm pissed because this was a very significant case that happened in the state of New York. They really made a big deal about it. We recall when he was captured in Pennsylvania and they brought him back to the state of New York, there was a lot of pomp and circumstance around it. I mean, he was
Right.
flew in on a helicopter. I believe the mayor was there. You know, it was a lot of pomp and circumstance around the capture. And they were looking forward to prosecuting him to make it clear that if you commit a crime in the state of New York, we're going after you to the fullest extent of the law. That's now taken away from them. That's taken away from the state of New York as the punishers here. So they're kind of sitting around mad that they were jumped in front of when his trial was set to start next month. They did everything they could to move this along as quickly as possible, but still, the federal case beat them to the punch and kind of stole their thunder. Now, listen, Luigi Mangione will be in jail no matter what for a very long time. So they may get justice. But I think for the state of New York, it was personal because it happened here. And because remember, he disappeared and he was on that chase. People were afraid in New York of who this guy could be and if he was coming after more people. And now the state of New York, they've lost their opportunity to give their own kind of punishment and set the record of how they want things handled in their state.
You're so right. I forgot about that too. It's like he evaded authorities. He evaded police for a long time, and the NYPD is famous for getting their man, or getting the person they're looking for
Yeah.
when they see them. Before we let you go, let me ask you just what's your take on what's happening with this Dwayne Keefe D. Davis trial and the Tupac murder trial? Because it's not getting the same type of attention as some of the other cases that we followed, but there is a lot of in the social media world, there's a tremendous, and hip hop world, there's a lot of interest in it. People saying, listen, this guy wrote everything in the book and now he's saying he didn't write the book. How strong a case do you think they really have against him for this second degree murder with gang enhancements?
This is, listen, we know Tupac was beloved. He was an important figure in the hip hop culture, in our community. He was a voice for a lot of people who didn't know how to express themselves at the time. Did he go extreme? Sometimes, maybe, but nobody, and in no way did he deserve to be killed. So we want justice ultimately. I think why you're not seeing so much attention is because we know Keefe D, he's not the person who killed Tupac, right? He didn't pull the trigger. Now, the state is charging him in Nevada, they're charging him with masterminding the plan, which he can be punished equally the same as the person who did pull the trigger. But I think if we had the trigger man here, there would be more attention around it. But the state is going off of a book that Keefe D wrote where he said he was the mastermind behind this. If I'm Keefe D's defense attorney, I'm saying that was all for show. He was trying to sell books. That was not real. And I will put people on the stand to talk about how Keefe D exaggerates all the time, how he makes things up and lies so he can get attention and convince the jury, or try to convince the jury, that they shouldn't even believe the words that are coming out of his mouth. I think that's, a hard thing to do. I think the prosecution is, they're in the driver's seat because they do have that book with those quote unquote confessions. The judge says that that book can come in during this trial, and the jury is going to have to determine, because that's basically all that the state of Nevada has, is that book confessing that he was the mastermind. There's not a lot of other evidence here, so the jury is going to have to say, do we believe Keefe D was telling the truth, and if so, he should be punished. Do we think he was exaggerating or making things up for some limelight,
For money,
so he can
for
get
getting
some
money.
attention for money? Absolutely. Then maybe not. Maybe they may say, we're not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that he wasn't just using this for entertainment and for money. He's not a believable guy. He exaggerates all the time. That's not enough for us to say he was actually involved in this murder.
Okay, and then final question on this. Dante Suge Knight had told ABC News that he was not going to testify at the trial. The Las Vegas authorities were saying, okay, we're going to have like a video testimony allowed, that type of thing. If he says, no, I don't want to testify, he's already incarcerated on a manslaughter case in California. Can they compel him to testify?
No, they won't be able to, and he's made it clear that he's not going to participate in this trial. We also know that they subpoena. Well, Sean Combs was on the witness list. He said, not so strong as Suge Knight, but he said he had no interest in being a part of this, and he didn't have any information. There's really no way to compel it. And when you think about it, again, the alleged trigger man, or that people talk about as a trigger man, he died. I believe it was 1998. And there's not a lot of witnesses around that were directly involved in this. So the state does have an uphill battle, minus the fact that Keefe D did put that book out. But I don't expect Suge Knight to show up at all. He's taken that stance from the beginning, and I don't see any reason why he would change that now.
All right, great. Attorney Donte Mills, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.